What's up, Internet? We are here in Phantasy Star Online 2, the greatest MMO to ever exist, a game I've been playing for over a decade. I'm still not sure if the audio mix is right because I still can't hear for shit, so I apologize for that, but I need footage because I'm planning on reviewing this. So here we are with my super alt, Dark Falls Risa, as well as Little Sis Regular Risa. Actually, fun little fact I just noticed, but if you look in the text box, you can kind of see on Regular Risa's wrist, they have the Arcs emblem, and I have the Broken Arcs emblem on my wrist. That was totally unintentional, and it's fantastic symbolism, because I am the dark future of her when she gets possessed by Dark Falls, or something. Besides, everyone needed a Dark Falls Risa in the world, because, you know, you need to have more crazy with crazy space robot waifu, because Risa's best girl. This also gives me a little bit of an excuse to try and figure out how the hell to play Gunner, because I've never really done too much of that. I mean, I've got my main character is capped in pretty much every class, but I still don't know how to play Gunner terribly well, but Risa's a Gunner, so she's got to have her guns. We're waiting for the Beach Wars quest to start, which should be in about a minute. I've passed party control over to my buddy, so I just have to run around until he accepts the mission. But, yeah. So I made my alt, Crazy Dark Falls Risa, the other day. This is the first alt I've ever made. I actually don't make alts in MMOs because I think it's stupid. Once you get one character up to the cap, why start from the start? But I thought, you know, what would Risa be like if she was evil? I mean, she's already crazy, and she already wants to shoot you when she's nice. So what would happen if she went and became, like, completely, like, pure, unadulterated evil? And I think ultimately she'd be less crazy. I think she'd gain clarity. Like, she'd go so crazy that she'd be, like, completely soft-spoken, completely understanding of what's going on in life, but she'd want it just to rain blood everywhere. So I'm going to try and be true to that vision by murdering everything on the beach, hopefully to outrun's passing breeze. That would just be nice. But, yeah, I plan on reviewing this in the future. I actually have a summary of up to halfway through episode 4. And that was half an hour of audio recording, so it might be a long video is what I'm saying. But this is the bullet time spinny move. That's what I know about Gunner, is they can do that, and they're better at close range despite being a ranged class. But anyway, yeah, we're on the beach, gonna go murder some rappies, maybe find King Rappy. Hopefully getting some stuff out of it. I'd like to get some rares. That would be nice. I don't need to be told how to do Beach Wars. I've been playing this game for 10 years, damn it. Just let me freaking... I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start just because I don't want to be patient. Because I'm Captain Impatient. And everyone should know that by now. I really hope we're playing a passing breeze, but I don't think we are. I do like the fact that Beach Wars just assaults you with non-stop Outrun music. As a big fan of Outrun, that pleases me greatly. But, yeah. So now we just gotta run around and murder a whole bunch of stuff. For those not familiar with PSO2, it came out earlier this year in English, although we've been playing it for about 10 years now. Translation's a little bit dodgy, but it's not as bad as Element Knights are, which was, I guess you could optimistically call being translated. But it's an action RPG. It's the best action RPG that's an MMO ever. It's a sequel to Phantasy Star Online, which is, for some reason, one of my most popular videos. Which I thought was okay, but I'd play that game offline. And that's on a console that isn't inherently online, which kind of, I think, defeats the purpose a little bit of an online game if you can't inherently play it online. It doesn't help that most of the fun stuff was locked to online, and most of it was locked to online, and only if you built a specific character a specific way, because drops in that game were the most stupidly designed ever. Like, if you're not familiar, basically when you create your character in Phantasy Star Online, you would be given an emblem, and your character's emblem would basically dictate exactly what drops they could ever potentially get. And it's not drop rates so much as it just says, okay, you have a chance to get this insanely rare thing. So it affected drop rates as well as just potential for seeing things. And like, you had to basically create 12 different characters, one of each different emblem color to get every drop. So that's not in this game, which is nice. And what was even stupider is your emblem was actually dictated by your character's name, which was the stupidest thing of all. So if I wanted a character with a specific name, I had to, like, finish it with random numbers or some nonsense to get a certain drop. It was bad. Here, they fixed that. There's no more emblem. Well, there are emblems, but they're just stickers you give your character to look cooler, I guess. Whereas, well, you know, in previous ones, it was completely what dictated your drops, which was bad. And no one liked that. I didn't like that, anyway. Whereas here, you can get pretty much any drop, provided that, you know, it drops for you. But, of course, it being an MMO, there are insanely low drops as well. Because that's how Skinner box crap like that works. But the nice thing is, this game is a fun action RPG that just has a really nice flow to it. And because of that, I could basically just play this game forever, and indeed I kind of have. Again, I've been playing this for 10 years, so you know. But I figured, you know, let's stream a special event, why not? I have a lot of fond memories of Beach Wars, back when Episode 4 came out and I got my physical PS4 edition. So I kind of thought, hey, if I'm going to stream an event, I think this would be the fun one to do. Just because I've got history with it. And Outrun music. Plus, I get to try and figure out Gunner a little bit better. Now, I know my attack boosts as I do the flippy moves and as I get closer, as well as doing perfect timed attacks, because, well, I guess you could hold down the button if that's your jam. If you time your attacks, like if I just get out of the way for just a sec, I fire once, you can see that little red circle around me. If I attack right when that red circle hits, I will do a perfect attack, and I'll actually do a damage multiplier on top of it. So, you know, you could just hold the button down and, like, just fight that way, and you can do it quite successfully, but you'll do significantly more if you actually, you know, have your head in the game and play this almost like kind of a rhythm game of sorts. Now, I'm terrible at rhythm games, so it doesn't work so well for me, especially when I'm playing a class that has attacks I'm not familiar with, but, yeah. It's just a fun, always engaging action RPG, really, that just happens to be an MMO. And there's a sequel to it apparently coming out next year, which I think is interesting. I don't know how well that's going to work, but I think it's interesting, certainly. Yeah, just running around on the beach with Outrun music. There's nothing about this not to like. I mean, there are other events I prefer, but this is a fun EQ, I think. And it's a rather, like, low pressure one. It's not one where you have to, like, be really, really serious about what you're doing. You can pretty much just run around randomly and you'll do well. You shouldn't, because you gotta help your team, but, you know, there are levels that are much higher pressure that require, you know, greater team collaboration. This isn't, like, challenge mode stuff. Although I do quite like the challenge mode stuff as well. I haven't done challenge mode in a while in this game. I should. Because that's an interesting level. Like, it throws you into an event at level 1 with 0 stats, with a non-existent class that can equip anything, and all you have is your bare fists, and you have to somehow make it through there by procuring equipment and powers on site. And by the end of it, you're, like, fighting level 50 guys at, like, level 10. Because that's about as much experience as you get from that. It is a ridiculous team-based thing, but it's a lot of fun. But that's PSO2 in general. Like, it does some stuff that I don't think is necessarily great. Like, the vehicle bits in Episode 4 are god-awful, but I think that's mostly just because the engine wasn't really built for stuff like this, you know? But the running around shooting stuff, that's fun. The going to random concerts and dancing, that's fun. They added a rhythm game to do that, too. That was kind of neat. I don't remember there being a rhythm game in the earlier Japanese bits. But my memory of the early PSO in Japan is a little bit spotty. Like, I remember early on, like really, really early on, there were only 3 classes, and you didn't actually get to pick your class until you hit level 10 with a non-existent trainee class. And then once you picked your class, you were kind of stuck there forever. And it was just fighter, gunner, and or Hunter Ranger, and one of the mage classes. But they've really overhauled this since early on. Like, it's basically a completely different game at this point. And that's fine, you know, it's fun. But seeing how it evolves and seeing the stuff they add, if you hopped in halfway through, which they kind of force you to, given the way they've sort of patchworked the English version, with like sort of the first 4 episodes together, even though it was originally the first 3, it was confusing. You have to deal with like a lot of mechanical changes that happened over the years that just made it kind of weird. So it could definitely be intimidating if you're just getting into this, but, you know, I think it's a fun game. And if you're willing to learn, it's definitely a great one, especially if you liked original Phantasy Star Online, because it's basically that, only better in every way and a hell of a lot faster and more responsive. And, you know, Phantasy Star Online is good. I mean, if it wasn't for Phantasy Star Online, there'd be no Phantasy Star Online 2, so I can't be too critical about it. Aside from the fact that its drop system was messed up, and most of the content was, despite having a single-player mode, completely relegated for not single-player. Still a little bitter about that, honestly. But, you know, that's MMOs. They're designed not to be played offline, I get that. Just the fact they give you that option, but then take most of it away is what bugged me so much. Although I will say, I'm playing this on the Xbox One, like a standard Xbox One. This game does not play fantastically. Like, right now it's not too bad, because we're in a relatively small, unpacked server. But if you go to any of the bigger servers on a standard Xbox One, the frame rate chugs so bad. Like, I took part in one of those, like, concert events just for a stat boost last time. And I think, for me, the event ended, I shit you not, about 2 minutes after everyone else's. Because, you know, people are playing this on Steam now and stuff, which is, you know, good. But, you know, I got it on Steam too, but I prefer playing it on console just because I like playing on console. But, you know, I can accept that playing on console versus playing on PC is just objectively a weaker experience. That I get, but I also played this on PS4, and it ran a lot better, and it looked a lot better too, and it's not a matter of me having, like, the better PS4. It was still just a base factory early release PS4. PS4 version is just objectively better than the Xbox One version in terms of how it plays and looks. One thing I never understood about this game, though, at least on the standard Xbox One, is to make it look better, you have to, like, make all the visual sliders go down, and, like, that makes sense from, like, it runs smoother because it has to process less stuff, but no, it genuinely just looks better if you tone down some of the visual stuff, and I got knocked down like a scrub. So I don't know how that works. I don't claim to be a graphics hound or someone who really understands much of that stuff, though. That's never been my thing. If I was, I'd be more of a PC gamer for sure. I like the uncomplicatedness of the consoles myself. It's not so much a power thing for me. Oh, Photon Burst. Cool. I wish I had my mag equipped so I could actually use that, but my mag is still very low level, so I've never actually bothered putting it on my weapon palette. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I do love bullet time jumping just by virtue of the fact it gives you so much ridiculous iframes. But I need to figure out hitbox on some stuff with this. Gunner, it's not a class I'm familiar with. I'm a bouncer by trade, damn it. And I'm a hell of a lot better with melee classes than I am ranged classes. On the bright side, we're getting plenty of experience. Risa might level here. One step closer to the cap where my main character's at. I do quite like Beach Wars. I wish this was an event that was available year-round. Like, I get it's a summertime thing, but it's just a fun event, really. I'm gonna grab this, which is not particularly rare, but it might be good fodder for upgrading weapons later. Take some armor. I don't have a ton of space in my inventory right now. Like I said, I'm doing this mostly just for footage and for experience as a gunner, not so much drops, because I don't have a lot of space for drops right now. I've actually maxed out my inventory for all my characters, which is, you know, not fantastic. I will say I don't like how limited your storage is, but that's just for the fact that they can actually, like, you know, charge you for extra storage space. I get that. They need to make money somehow, but they really do monetize this game quite a fair bit. That's one of the few things I dislike about it, is just how everything has a money value to it. That and gacha. I cannot stand the gacha elements of this. But, you know what? It's still an excellent action RPG. I don't play this game for the story that much, I can tell you. But for the action, for the flippy, for the jumping and shooting, and the throwing photonic blades around as I hack things apart with my giant swords, this is a good game. This is a very good game. And it's free to play. I wouldn't even say it's really pay to win. That I do think the things you do need to pay for are kind of a bit insane at times. Again, storage is a bit awful. As well as, well, storage mostly, but the fact that you can't trade between characters without having to pay, that seems a bit excessive to me. And the fact that there's like 20,000 billion different currencies in this game is just straight up stupid. But, you know, I think this is a fun game. And the fact that you can actually play this and play it pretty well without ever actually spending money is fantastic. I mean, the only thing I think I ever spent money on in PSO2 was my mag on my main character. I got the Opa mag, and there's actually history as to why I wanted that. Like, that was something you actually had to pay money for, because it was part of, like, one of the founder packs. But I spent money on that expressly because, like I said, I played original Phantasy Star Online, and one of the things I wanted more than anything was the Opa mag, what with Fantasy Zone being my very first game. Or Fantasy Zone 2, rather, being my very first game. So I wanted that because there's a lot of personal history with that. And, well, you know, you couldn't get it in original PSO without going online, and again, that wasn't really an option for me. So it made me very sad, because that was like the one thing I wanted, and it's like, oh, I can't have that. Okay, well, what's the one weapon I want? Oh, I can't get that without going online too. Well, everything I wanted, I had to be online for. In fact, I remember that being the second thing I ever went to GameFAQs for, was I wrote a post in the GameCube PSO forums saying, hey, is there any way for me to get this without going online? And they told me no, and I was sad. I remember what my first two uses of GameFAQs were. The only thing before that was Harvest Moon 64. I could not figure out where my tools were because they were stuck in my little tool bench that the game doesn't tell you about. I had to go to their forums to check on that as well. And that is the history of how I started using GameFAQs. And now I contribute... Well, actually, I'm one of their top contributors for videos. I haven't contributed videos in a while, though. I really need to get back to that, but I'm so bogged down with everything else. Ah, there's EO. Killed EO. I like EO. She's one of my more favorite partner NPCs. After Risa, of course. Because Crazy Robot Space Waifu is best girl. Love the giant rappy on the beach over there. This is such a fun little area. It's pretty much entirely reused assets, too. It's not like they had to come up with something overly complicated with this. Aside from that rappy, all this is just a redesigned coastal region. And yet, it's still a fun, pretty much brand new experience. All the music isn't inherently in the game. That was added for this. Hey, Katori! That's another one of my favorite to use NPCs, but that's because she's a bouncer like me. There's a certain kinship there. Also, she uses the swords like I do, instead of the roller skates like Saga does. I've played a lot of this game, can you tell? I think since this game came out in North America, I've logged like 1.5 thousand hours into it. Granted, some of that's been like, you know, being offline and just idling my character for reasons, but I have played a lot of this game since it came out. And I plan on sinking a lot more time into this game. Because it's fun. And they keep adding stuff, and there's a sequel coming out, and I'm excited about that. Because apparently you can take your character from one game to the next. And apparently it's going to be seamless and completely reversible too, so you can go from one game to the other, back and forth. And I think that's very cool. Although, as I understand, like, your levels won't carry over in your abilities, but your character and, like, your fashion and stuff will, which is, I mean, honestly, what I care about. I'm fine with re-leveling my characters, as long as I don't have to, like, re-earn the looks and stuff. And, you know, again, for a game that over-monetizes everything, I could see them basically forcing you to have to pay for the exact same cosmetics over and over again. I mean, they basically already do in-game if you want to use the cosmetics on more than one character. You have to buy 2 just to use across your characters, even though some things are transferable between characters, which I find rather inconsistent and money-grubbing, honestly. But we get to have a nice little summer vacation here on the beach and fight all the Wopal things. I really got to get used to the whole taking advantage of dodging for attack boosts, because there is a huge attack boost to that, but I just don't use it. But again, I'm still trying to figure out, like, the best combos and the best way to make a gunner flow for me. Like, I've got a good idea of how I like to make my bouncer work, and that's mainly just using my dodge, dash, and dispersal shrike, which basically just clears rooms with very little effort. And it can hit multiple enemies at once, and big enemies a whole mess of times. But Gunner's a bit of a new beast for me. I had to give Risa a gun. I couldn't have her being a bouncer. That would just be weird. So, figuring out Gunner it is. I mean, if nothing else, I can handle myself if I need to, but I know there's just an infinitely better way to play Gunner than I've figured out yet. But it's once again, it's like the perfect timing attack thing. Like, yeah, you can just hold the button down like this and you'll probably be fine. There's just ways to be far more effective and efficient. Just by timing stuff like that, and that, and that, and that, and that. But you can play this kind of mindlessly if you want to. Bullet time dodging with slow motion. It's the what is it? I want to say Mad Max or Serious Sam, but that's not it. It's the other one. It's the bullet timey one. I can't think of his name. Crap. Max Payne. There we go. That's where Mad Max came from. It's one of those names that's like a thing and then an actual name kind of thing. It was Max Payne. It was the bullet dodgy game. I have a copy, and I don't think I've ever actually played Max Payne. I got it in a bundle, and I just never cared. I remember when I took my game design course, at one moment there was actually like a question. Like, for some reason, like, as like just a starting thing, they wanted to kind of know how like familiar you were with genres and stuff. And at one point they, in the book, I swear, tried to teach you that the name Max Payne meant more than just it was his name. That it actually was an allegory for the amount of pain he was in, which was maximum. It was like, yeah, it's not that subtle. But that course was a little bit poorly handled, I think. Seeing as I had to teach most of it because the teachers didn't know what they were doing. Learning game design was an interesting beast, especially, well, I learned it long before I had to teach a course on it, but you know, having to teach a course on behalf of teachers who didn't know what they were doing, that was an interesting experience. But, yeah. Anyway, there's bullet dodging in this game. I love how every character feels, like, completely different. Like, every character seems to, or every class has, like, a defensive mode, but then you've got, like, Bouncer, whose defensive mode isn't really defensive so much as it's evasion, because it's entirely a class made based on movement, which I think is why it's such a fun class to play as. And this class, it has sort of a dodge as well, but it also incorporates slow motion as well as an increased damage but because you're moving in slow motion, while it does give you large invulnerability, it makes you a huge target as well, because you're not getting out of the way all that effectively. It really rewards mastery of figuring out when hurt boxes exist, as opposed to, say, Braver, which does have like a blocking defensive stance, but that is based on parrying and countering, which I think is very, very interesting, because of course then you've got your standard Hunter, which is just about blocking and reducing damage. I'm going to just destroy his little flipboard, and then he's going to get sad and probably try to attack me. Yep. Joke's on you. I can fly because I'm a gunner. Gunners are fun. Don't know how to use them to save my life, but they're fun. Alright, so I need to activate Chain Trigger and Showtime. Preferably hit this guy from the front to take advantage of my fighting stance, which does extra damage if I attack them from the front. Although there is a different stance to attack from the sides and back if you want. I don't like having to juggle multiple different passives or semi-actives at once, though. That seems a little too finicky to me. I like trying to make things about as simple as I possibly can. That's why I normally play stuff like, either, if Rogue is not an option in an MMO, I tend to play Tank, just because I can hit multiple things at once without having to really worry about it. You know, it means I don't have to team up with anyone, it means I can take out anything, and I don't have to really worry about managing skills so much, as it's usually just a large number of passives. And I like that. I prefer making my characters uncomplicated as possible. So maybe going for Gunner wasn't necessarily the best, but PSO2, a lot of character classes are designed to be functionally very complicated once you get down to it, but it's a matter of, you know, really understanding it. And once again, you can play things real simple if you want. And I think we got room for one more before the event ends. And I guess that'll be it, but yeah, PSO2, and trying to learn how to play Gunner for the sake of making the greatest purely evil Dark Goddess reset ever. It's fun. Even though I suck with this character class, I'm having an absolute blast trying to figure it out. Like, that's the thing about this game. Like, even classes I don't really enjoy, I still found myself enjoying. To a degree, anyway. It was more than just, oh, I hate this thing, I don't want to actually play this. You know, I played everything to the point where I got the permanent boost to my characters. Just for capping all the classes. I'll start the teleporter because no one else is. But, yeah. Beach Wars. Fun event. Good experience, good drops. Not great experience or drops, but, you know, good. Someone's got the big angry demon wings. I've got that on my auxiliary. I gave her a cape. I turned those into cape bits. That's one thing I really like about this, is that you can customize all your, like, insane cosmetics and stuff. I wish there was a little bit more customization, because you can only rotate things like 180 degrees in any direction as opposed to a full 360. But that would only come up like once or twice for most people. For me, that came up all the time because I was trying to like see what kind of crazy stuff I could do with regular stuff. Like at one point I turned a pair of horns into a pair of sunglasses. But I've had one or two really cool ideas I just couldn't do because I couldn't quite rotate things all the way that I'd like to. But the fact that you can do that alone is a hell of a lot more customization than any other MMO really gives you. And the fact that they actually let you tweak your cosmetics means that like 90 people that have 90 different versions of the exact same cosmetics will all have different looking characters and uses for them if they're creative with it. I love that about this game. It's like 1 million people could all start the game and have the access to the same starting cosmetics, and yet you'll have a room full of completely different looking characters by the end of it. It's amazing that this game rewards so much creativity, and you can do pretty much anything provided you don't need to rotate something 100 or 360 degrees to do it. This game is just insane for its creativity with its characters, and I loved that alone. I spent an embarrassing amount of time trying to rotate accessories just to see what I can do with them. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, you know. Sometimes you spend a lot of in-game currency to get something that you think, oh, I'll just rotate it this way and it'll look awesome. And then you realize, oh, it's built a certain way that it didn't show, and no, I can't actually rotate that way. There's a Gelbolf. I'm going to do my best not to get hit by that, because that'll murder me instantly. It's just a big angry pitcher plant with wings, but it'll instantly murder you if you let it. So don't let it touch you, because that would be a bad idea. Alright, so the next area's over there. I'm going to be sad when this goes away in a few days. I like Beach Wars. I have such fond memories of doing this on the Japanese PSO2 Episode 4 servers. Back on the PS4. But, you know, it'll be fun to see what other events we get. It has been a long time since I've played, like, Halloween events and stuff. I genuinely don't really remember them all that well. But, you know, I have played literally thousands of MMORPGs in my day. And I think that by far the worst one I've ever played is Element Knights R on the Switch, which they charge $30 for and still have crappy microtransactions out the ass for. But you know what? This one is free to play and to get 99% of anything you want in this game. And it's by far the best. It has the best flow of combat I've ever seen in an MMO. It's not simply click on your enemy and then your guy smacks to your opponent as many times as it can until it dies or you die. Nope, it's all about rewarding how you time your special abilities and mastering the timing on your characters. And that means that while, like other MMOs, your characters might have the same sword whack animation, you might do completely different damage, not because your stats are higher, but because you understand how to time it better, or you understand the better combo. Or you simply know where to hit your opponent because it almost feels like Monster Hunter in some ways, because enemies are made in segments that give them specific weak points and strengths. You know, this game is ridiculously ambitious when you get down to it, and it's an absolute blast, and it's free. You know? Why would you not ever want to play this? I mean, maybe don't necessarily play the Xbox One version on a standard Xbox One, but because with maybe the exception of the Switch, I haven't played that one. It's kind of like the most inept consoleized version I've ever played of this game, but I will say, even when it's not playing well in this game because of technical limitations or whatever, it's still a ridiculously fun game. It's just almost comical how slow this game can be when you get to a server that an original Xbox is not really outfitted to play terribly well. Ooh, I'm gonna do this move, because I like this move. I just love the slow motion AoE bullet time shooting. That's a fun move. That move feels like it makes you almost external to the world. Not in the sense that it removes your hitbox, but in the sense that your character's just slowly sort of walking around, completely unimpressed by the carnage going around them. You know, there's something about that I like. Oh, there's Huey. We haven't run into him yet, which means we're going to be fighting the big guy. Yep, that guy. The Vabris. Which means I need to shoot its big butt a whole bunch. Fortunately, I've got a move that'll help. This one! I got the custom one that lets me move with it, too. And I did a great success when I crafted it, so it does even more damage, and it only increased my PP usage by 1. It was a good custom move. It's all Vita stuff. It's going to be useless for me. Much like the Vita itself was. AoE damage, go! I'll do a head spin because why not? PSO2's fun. Ooh. What do we got here? We have a Lexaga. No thanks. I think I can do without that. Dio or better. I can at least sell Dios for something later down the line. Lexagas aren't worth the inventory space, I don't think. Come on. Something happen. I'm gonna lose my acceleration, and I did. Poop. I think natives should show up any point now, and we should finish this off. Ah, over there. Alright, fine. Super high-speed running, go! And this should be where the mission ends. Slow motion spinny shot mode because I like this move. I do quite like Gunner, even if I'm terrible with it. I think if I'm going to play a ranged class, it'll probably be this one. I really do like the, defensive roll move it's got. It does feel almost kind of bouncery. And the fact that it's not so much a defensive option in the sense that you're blocking and reducing damage so much you're avoiding it altogether. And the fact that you can turn that into an offensive option at the same time, that feels incredibly bouncery to me. So I might be inept with you, Gunner, but I think I will still keep you. Neo's a weird character. And he cheats at blackjack a whole bunch. And there's the Chrome Dragon. Now, I prefer to shoot you from front, so I get a boost to that. And I do. Awesome. I gotta learn, like, the proper ability combos and flow, but, you know, I've at least, I think, got some of the basics for how to gunner properly down. And we got a level out of it. And we got footage. And I got to play on the beach a whole bunch, which is fun. It's been a fun little time. I gotta eat dinner soon, though, so I don't know if I'll do Animal Crossing tonight or not. We'll see. But at least it gave me an excuse to play more PSO2, which is good, because, well, I don't need an excuse to play more PSO2. It's PSO2, it's good. But it did give me an excuse to try out my super alt once again. And we'll just summon the Rappies, because why not? And I think that will be it for PSO2 tonight. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, follow the stream to know when we get live, because we go and stream every night, usually with proper audio mixing, but like I said, I can't hear right now, so I apologize if audio is way off, in which case I doubt you're actually watching at this point. But either way, you might also want to check out and subscribe to my YouTube channel, see everything else I do, which is a lot of stuff, including eventually a review of this. You know, PSO, the original, was like my longest video at the time. I think this one's gonna beat it, like the story section alone is like 20 minutes long. Look forward to that eventually. And if you really want to make my day, check out the show's PayPal or Patreon. Support the show any way you can so that I can continue to do what I do to the best of my ability, which in this case is be the greatest evil space crazy robot waifu ever, because Dark Falls Risa is the best alternate reality version of Best Girl. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, Internet.